Welcome to Fireside Football. I'm Kendall Capps.
And I'm Andrew Williamson.
Well, Andrew, it's week 2 of the NFL season. We're coming off a couple of surprises last week. The 49ers, they sure left a stinker out in the field in Seattle last week.
Oh, there was a few more. The Eagles, the Colts giving up 230 rushing yards to the Texans.
I happily predicted a victory for the Texans.
As did the Chicken.
Yes, that is right.
Let's get on with our week 2 picks. We'll start off an NFC North divisional showdown in Cincinnati. The Ravens coming in to take out the Bengals. Where do you see this going?
You know, I think it's going to be a great ball game. Cincinnati can't afford to go 0-2 this early in the season. They got Baltimore coming into their house. They're going to try to expose that secondary of Baltimore that was not exposed by Mark Sanchez in the Jets passing game last week. The Jets only completed, I think, 8 passes all game. It was ridiculous. Now this week, they're going against Carson Palmer, who wants to get the ball to Ocho Cinco and to Terrell Owens on the outside. I really like their chances in this game. They're going to try to also get back to the ground game, try to mix it up, and I think they're going to pull away with a victory in this game.
I also like the Bengals here. I know I picked the Bengals last week, and they did not show against the Patriots, but they did have a lot of receiving yards once they got going, and I felt like they kind of got avalanched by the snowball with the Patriots, with the interception return, the kick return. And if you look, since Marvin Lewis left the Ravens to come to the Bengals, when Carson Palmer's starting, the Bengals are 8-3 versus the Ravens. So I'm also going to take the Bengals here and hope if they don't win here, I'm going to hop off the bandwagon. We won't be picking the Bengals again for a while.
Well, how about another surprise team, at least considering Big Ben wasn't there, but Pittsburgh winning week 1 last week in overtime. Now they go on the road to Tennessee, who looked really good against an Oakland ball club.
I agree it was against Oakland, but I like Tennessee. They've been going with 2 and 3 wide receiver sets. An interesting stat, in 2 and 3 wide receiver sets, Chris Johnson averages 7.9 yards a carry. Jeff Fisher's been practicing them all week. They say they're going to run a lot more 2 wide receiver sets. You may see Chris Johnson go off, but even Vince Young acquitted himself with some long passes to take the pressure off the line of scrimmage and open the field up. Pittsburgh, I think, are still kind of one-dimensional. They can run the ball, but until Big Ben gets back, I'm gonna say Tennessee here.
You like Tennessee at home? I think it's a really tough game. I also like Tennessee to win the game, but I don't think it's going to be their running game. I think Kenny Britt, who had no targets, no catches at all last week, is actually going to have a pretty good week this week. Vince Young's going to be on the move. Pittsburgh's going to do a decent job of trying to keep him inside the numbers. Keep him in the numbers. Don't let him get outside. Don't let him get out open space. And keep him to 80, 90 yards rushing. But I think Vince Young is going to get out of the pocket, create some big plays, make the plays that's necessary for them to win that game and to go on to 2-0 and take the lead in that division.
Well, let's move over to another of the league's top running backs, to Adrian Peterson, who last week looked great in the first half, only gets 3 touches in the second half and Minnesota loses. This week they've got the Dolphins coming in. Their defense looked solid, but they didn't do much on offense last week. Can they come in and shock Minnesota?
You know, I definitely think they have a decent shot at it. Minnesota is going to struggle the next few weeks unless they get Vincent Jackson. San Diego is trying to possibly make that trade by next Wednesday, and if they do, he will be able to play in the next couple of weeks. And if that happens, I definitely think Minnesota long-term, their offense should get back on track. But right now, Percy Harvin is questionable. They don't have any other receivers. Greg Camarillo, he made a good catch last week, but really, what can he really bring week to week? So Brett Favre's going to have a hard time finding guys to get the ball to. So I expect Miami to try to put 8 in the box, force Brett Favre to have to beat him through the air, which is going to be difficult. But I think the home crowd, I think the momentum, I think the necessary win for Minnesota will be enough for them to get this victory.
Well, I'm going to go the other way. I think Miami is going to pull out a statement game here. They're coming in. They have something to prove that they're legitimate. They've got a hard stretch of games coming up. And when you say who's going to catch the ball for the Vikings, the main candidate right now is Greg Camarillo, fresh off the Dolphins. And I think they'll know what he can do and be able to work around it. Their defense looked great last week. Their offense really didn't, but their offense didn't really have to because the Bills had, I think, 3 first downs. So I think Miami can come in, put a shocker in them. I think Minnesota's going to keep improving and be back to that NFC title game later this year. But I think it's going to take them a couple more weeks before they can get Harvin full strength, maybe get Vincent Jackson in there and then get Rice back. That's going to be a hard team to beat.
Well, I think one problem they have, they're missing Chester Taylor a little bit because that extra back that they could bring in for third downs to catch balls out of the backfield, he's invaluable. And now without him, you can't just rely on AP every down. There's only so much one guy can do when guys are packing it in the box. And it's going to make it difficult for Minnesota for sure. Now we go over to the AFC East, where this should be a great ball game. The Jets, they really need this victory. They cannot start the season 0-2. They just 0-2, not just 0-2, but 0-2 at home to start the season would be crippling for them. However, are they even going to be able to score enough points to keep up with the Patriots?
Well, see, I think the Jets' offense looked horrible. Everyone, obviously, the Jets' offense looked horrible.
Yeah.
But also, the Patriots' defense is not the Ravens' defense. Now, it still has some secondary problems, which the Jets couldn't exploit last week, so we'll see what they can do this week. I also like the Patriots here. I don't see the Jets scoring enough points. I'm not big on the Jets, and I think the Jets could start off 0-4 this year. They've got a tough schedule.
They do. At the beginning half, in this game particularly, they're going to find it really difficult because even Revis Island, even if he locks down Moss this week, you got to like Welker and Edelman, who now is active for the game, who's little Welker basically, running the curls and running the out patterns, and all they do is move chains, eat the clock. And the Jets offensively, they're going to have to at least put up 17 points to win this game. Their defense is good enough to win many games or keep them in ball games. But they're not going to, their offense just, with Mark Sanchez there, I just don't see them scoring enough to get a victory.
Well, one thing you know is they're going to hate each other, at the very least.
Yes.
What about this game with some brotherly love? The Mannings playing each other. Colts versus the Giants, Sunday Night Football, the second Manning Bowl. What do you see going on?
I expect a really high-scoring, fun game to watch. I think the Giants, who looked really good in Week 1 against Carolina when they opened their new stadium, they're going to go on the road in Indianapolis. It's going to be tough initially, but I expect a balanced attack from the Giants, both running and passing the ball. Eli, quietly, now that Hakeem Nicks, a big receiver on the outside, somebody can get the ball too deep. He has Steve Smith, who can always run underneath, and he's quick. They have a balanced attack. It'll keep them in the game, but there's no way Indianapolis is going to start this season 0-2. It's just not going to happen.
I agree. The Colts have not started 0-2 since Peyton Manning's rookie season. I like the Giants. I thought they really played well last week, but their intermediate pass defense is a little shaky. That's not what you want to hear when you're facing Peyton Manning, is that your pass defense is a little shaky. I agree. I look for a 38-31 type of game. High scoring, high flying, lots of fun. Spend your Sunday night watching it, but I'll take the Colts.
Yeah, absolutely. And that takes us to Monday night, where New Orleans goes on the road, having, 10, 11 days to prepare for this game, going against the 49ers team, maybe the biggest disappointment in Week 1. What do you think is going to happen?
I want to take the 49ers. I really do. I took them last week. They didn't show against the Seahawks, but if they can't stop Matt Hasselbeck from throwing 3 touchdowns, how do you stop Drew Brees from throwing 6?
Yeah. It's going to be really difficult. I do think Michael Singletary is someone who is going to get his team up for this game, especially given the way they played last week. I expect their defense to play much better than they did in the previous week. But New Orleans just has too many weapons. It's going to be too difficult for them to stay in that game. New Orleans, as the game goes along, should be able to prevail.
No, and I did like how Mike Singletary last week said we got our butt kicked. We learned from it. We're back. So I think the 49ers make it interesting. An upset may be in the mix here. I'm still going to go with the Saints. I can't disagree with that.
It's too hard not to.
Now, last week in our picks, how'd you do?
4-2. 4-2. Lost the Eagles, and there was another one in there that I lost. Oh, Dallas. But I think most people lost Dallas. You, however, didn't. You actually had Washington.
Hey, but I still ended up at 4-2.
Yes.
However, both of us were 2 games ahead of the resident Fireside Rooster.
How you doing, boys?
Well, we're doing better than you, I guess, at 2-4. We're going to see what your picks are for this week, Rooster.
Hey, you can't wing them all.
How about the Baltimore Ravens playing the Cincinnati Bengals here this week? Who you got?
I have to go with the Bengals.
Bengals, nice choice.
All right, how about Tennessee at home against the Steelers?
Let's go Big Ten.
Big Tennessee.
I guess
Titans
that means
winning.
Tennessee.
How about Miami Dolphins versus the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota here?
Miami Dolphins.
All right, last week you had both the Patriots and Jets winning. Only the Patriots did. Now they play each other. Who do you like?
I'm still going with the Patriots.
Probably a smart choice.
All right, how about the Giants playing the Colts in Indianapolis?
Indianapolis.
Yeah, he got burnt by him last week. I think the Rooster might have learned his lesson. in the big game on Monday night, the Saints, the defending Super Bowl champs, going to San Francisco. What do you think?
Let's go with the Saints. They had a good last week.
All right. Well, thank you, Fireside Rooster, for your picks. We'll see you
how
next
we're
week.
doing. And that's going to do it for Week 2 of Fireside Football. Once again, I'm Kendall Capps.
And I'm Andrew Williamson.
We'll see you here next week.